Hi, this is Nancy Reynolds, Stampin' with Nutsy. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Bellingham, Washington, and I'm so glad you joined me for my bundle focus on the Butterfly Brilliance. Let me show you what I'm using. I am using our stamp positioner, the Stamparatus. When it first came out, it was fondly called the Stampasaurus, just for fun, but it's a very good positioning tool. I have Shaded Summer, which is going to continue into the new catalog beginning in May, but it's available right now also. Butterfly Brilliance is available now as a set, so it comes as a bundle, which is what we're using. And on May 3rd, when the new catalog starts, Butterfly Brilliance is going to be unbundled. So you could buy the stamp set, or you could buy these lovely dies and separately, or you could get them for a 10% discount before the new catalog. So I suggest buying them now if you don't already have them. I'm also using something that is retiring. It's sad. The Hippo and Friends dies. I wasn't excited about the stamp set and didn't get that, but I do love these layers, the frames, and the way they layer. They're just beautiful. I'm going to use one today on the project, this set. But I also have cards to show you with the other two sets, so you'll see what they look like. So let's get started. The first thing you need is butterflies, because after all, that is our focus, the butterflies. So in my Stamparatus, I have it's probably a half sheet of cardstock. It's a little more than I really needed, but it's nice to have room to put the magnets. Remember, when you're using the magnets, they are very strong magnets, and they take offense at being too close to each other, and they clap together, and sometimes they break. So you want to be very careful to keep them separate. Should they meet and be stuck together, you can separate them by sliding them. You can't pull them apart, but you can slide them. So I'm taking Memento ink because I want to use blends today. So the Memento black ink. I have got my Stamparatus plate on top of a stamp set because that keeps it at a flat angle. It's not that you can't do it the other way, because you can. And I'm going to show you. It's just easier this way. And the reason I recommend the Stamparatus for this is it's a large stamp. And so when you put it down and you apply pressure, and sometimes some of us who are a little older have a little arthritis. I have this little hockey puck, one of those air hockey games. And so I bought this to help me kind of smooth out a little easier. And sometimes it works really well most of the time, but sometimes I miss areas. So with the Stamparatus, if you see, there's still ink on here. You can put it right back down and press and get those areas that were missed. Also, if you don't have enough ink in an area and you didn't get it on your stamp very well, you can re-ink it and once again stamp it down in its place. Let's see. That corner right there didn't look quite... Oh, that looks pretty good. I like that. So I'm going to remove my magnets. Remove my paper. I'm going to get the Stamparatus out of the way. And there are our butterflies. We're going to use 2 of them on the card. I'm not going to color them. I have already got them colored, and everything is cut out. But I just wanted to let you know about our blends. They're really great. This is Poppy Parade. There's a light and there's a dark. They come in a set of 2. The little line on the one end means that is the pen end, and you have a little more control. So say I wanted to make just this little area, color that in, and I want it to stay dark, and I only want to use the dark one on it because I want that to stand out. I would color a small shape with the pen end. The other end is got a wider line, and that's the brush end. Now, I would like to pretty much have the rest of this, I'm going to highlight it with the dark, but for right now, I just want it in the light ink. So color it in with a brush ink. It takes less time. I don't have quite the control as I had with that pen end, but it works pretty well. Now everywhere there's black, I want to go in and I want to highlight those areas. This is where the artist who designed this feels that there is a little bit of extra shading. And I think it makes a difference. Even though it's kind of a lighter black, to just bring that up and shade that in. So there we are. There's part of a wing. If it looks like it's a little bit blotchy, I might go in and just go over it just a little bit with the light again in those areas. The more you go over it, the darker it becomes. So that's how I colored. I chose to use the bronze for the bodies. And I just don't quite like the white around the edges all the time. So on some of mine, on one set of them I did, I went with smoky slate kind of around the butterfly. Let's see how. There's one that I colored in with smoky slate. Once I get them all colored, and we're just going to do this a little early, so I'm not going to finish that one. I just think butterflies should sparkle. So I take my Wink of Stella and I go over the color, the whole butterfly. I don't know. I just like sparkle. Maybe that's why, I don't know. Just makes me happy. So then I took my cut and emboss machine and I used the die to cut out this. Now the cool thing about this is this die cuts out each individual butterfly. So I will have 6 butterflies at the end, but it's all in one piece. So you just line it up. I check their antennae. And then I would take it. I'd probably put a little bit of tape, maybe a Post-it note over the top to hold it in place, and put it on my stamp cut and emboss machine and cut it out. But for now, we're going to say that the nice thing about videos and Facebook Lives and planning ahead is that you can have them already done. The big thing about this card is not necessarily the butterflies, although they're lovely. I want to show you how to do a really easy accordion fold. So here's one I've done. I used designer series paper for my accordion so it folds flat very nicely. It'll go in the envelope. And look, it pulls out. Now this is one that I used a different, one of those layered dies from the Hippo Happiness. Isn't that cute? And I stayed with the same color theme for this one and the one we're going to make because I wanted to show you what I did. And so you don't repeat my mistake. This one I cut a gold butterfly, the lacy ones, and put it over the top of one of my colored ones. This is the glimmer paper that I cut it out of. And again, there's another die, layering dies that I used. And the inside is a little different. So what I did was, it seems that these are clouds, and clouds are directional. I believe this is the bottom of the cloud and that is the top of the cloud, but I didn't pay attention to it while I was making the card. I've decided, though, it's going to work. No one will know the difference. Here, I think, is how it's supposed to look. So if you're using a directional designer series paper to do this, please watch the direction and decide how you want it to go. So let's go ahead and get started. I have supplies here. Let's see, I had another envelope, but I don't see it. So I'm not going to worry about this piece right now. I have one of our gold foiled butterflies which is just the intricate design cut out of gold foil. I have colored this butterfly with a combination of pale papaya and, let's see, what color is this? Calypso coral, I believe. And the same with this one. So here's our die. This is going to be our base layer for our sentiment. This will layer on top of it. This one is going inside, and basically these are all cut out of scraps I have, just sitting around. The base of the card is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it's a quarter sheet of cardstock. If you're using centimeters, it's 10.5 by 14.9 centimeters. So there's our cardstock. Here's our base layer. It is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 because I wanted a very narrow border. It's a look that I like. It's 10.2 by 14.6 centimeters. So you can see this will just go on like this. And it's a very easy card to put together. And here is the star of the whole show. It is for the accordion fold. It is a piece of designer series paper cut. It's 12 inches, so our designer series paper is 12 by 12. So you only need to make one cut at 5 1/4 inches. Then you score it at 2 inches, 5 inches, and 8 inches. So 2, 5, and 8. Be careful when you're scoring designer series paper. It's not as thick as cardstock. So you need to be a little more gentle with it. For centimeters, that's 14.4 centimeters by 30 centimeters. And it is scored at 5, 12.5, and 20 centimeters. So there we are. Then you just take your bigger piece and fold it in and back into the middle. And you've got it. Isn't that pretty? And it's a very easy. Decide which side you want to. I mean, it is possible that you'd rather use this side, this side. Decide which piece you want to see the most of. But it's a fun way to make a quick card that is impressive. So we're just going to put it together. Let's see. And I'm just using my seal. It does help if you take the top off of it. And remember with seal that you want it to break right at the top. So keep your angle and lift up. Put your seal on and then here are your two layers. Generally speaking, because they're cut at the same they creased by the same amount on each side. If you get the 3 sides lined up well, it'll work very well for you. You might prefer using your Tombow multi-purpose glue because that does give you some wiggle room. I am going to put this down with maybe a little more than I should because this is card that's got some movement. People are going to be opening and closing and opening and closing because they're going to want to look at it and examine it. So again, line it up. It is a very narrow border on all sides, and it's a little more difficult. Hope I'm not getting my head in. Let's see, I'm going to take it up just a tinch. There we are. We're going to call that good. It's not perfect, but then again, it's handmade, not perfect. Handmade, not Hallmark. There are some different ways now to put this together. One of the things you want to be very careful about is when you're gluing and attaching your sentiment layer, you do not want to glue anything on this part. So you have to be very careful. So what I like to do is I lay it down and then I turn it over. So the back is now up and I am going to put my seal on the back. I'm not using dimensionals for this project because there's a lot of dimension to it. You've got your layers of designer series paper. You've got your sentiment and then your butterfly, and your butterfly will have the gold foil on top of it, so that's going to give you more dimension. So I didn't want to get too carried away and make it too thick because I want to be able to mail it. All right, let us stamp. I'm mounted hello you and thank you. And I think I'm going to use hello you for this card. Oh, that was smart. Okay. We will just take a piece of grid paper and make sure we know if this is on straight. That's right. The low U is not very straight. That's better. When I was putting this together, I did not do a good job of putting my label on. It is all on me. But I did find that I was able to adjust it so that if the block is straight, the stamping will be straight. But sometimes it takes a little playing around to get to that point. And again, I am just going to put this down with seal, making sure I put plenty of it on, only because it's an interactive card. And I wouldn't want the sentiment flying off. And now for the butterfly. The butterfly can go basically anywhere at any angle. The only thing you want to be careful of is that it doesn't extend beyond your card base. So I believe this will work, and I am just going to do the bottom of him with some glue. There he or she is, and I don't know if you can see how nicely that sparkles with all of the Wink of Stella on it or not, but it's very pretty. I am also going to use glue for the foil, the gold foil. I'm going to put a little bit right down here and put it over the top of the body, and you're going to want to hold it for just a second or two, just to make sure it has a chance to start setting up. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you is some options. I think that does it. You could cover any of these surfaces with basic white paper. You can stamp on them. You can decorate them if you want to. One of the things that I like to do is to use the larger matte layer if I've got a large mat. I just kind of, I'm going to put my seal on the back here, and I'm going to line it up so I've got the whole accordion in my hands lined up, and put it down. And then when you're looking at the card, you don't see that. Now, why I didn't stamp on that to begin with before I glued it down, I do not know. Because generally speaking, I would prefer to stamp first, glue, adhere second, just in case I have done something stupid, which has been known to happen. So let's see how my stamping goes. Pulling this back in, going to line this up that looks straight with the label, and it's not quite. So how's that? Oh, that's good. Some friendships are just meant to be. There we go. And I have an extra butterfly. And I think he would look very happy down there. Now, if you wanted to, I'll show you on one of the cards that I used a piece of paper, which was 2 3/4 by 5 inches or 7 centimeters by 14 centimeters, and I tucked it up against the fold. And that also is a good way. It's also the size, if I wanted more room to write, that I could mount over here on the left. But for now, this is exactly what I wanted. And it needs just a little bit more. Just a little bit. So I'm going to grab my Take Your Pick tool and use the putty end. And I'm going to take a small butterfly. And I'm going to, not a butterfly, a rhinestone gem. I'm going to put 2 down here. And I'm going to put 1 up here at the top. So that when you open it up, that you still see the embellishments. And there's our card. For the envelope, I took a piece of that was left over from my 6 inches. So there was 3/4 of an inch left over. I cut it in 2. And then I cut that down to 5 and 2. I just used a strip of it. And I glued it using my multi-purpose glue because I do not want it to move. I do not want it to mess up with any of that postal machinery. I do not want my postal man angry with me. So there we have a pretty envelope. We have a pretty card. We've done a couple techniques. And we've got a fun fold. So I hope you enjoyed it. And I certainly enjoyed stamping with you. Thank you very much for watching. And I will see you again. Happy crafting.